What up, everybody? Welcome to the Chop It Up podcast. I'm Coach Parker,
I'm Coach Zach.
and we are stoked to bring you today's episode. Today's episode has come with a lot of labor. We recorded this last week, and we had some technical issues, and you guys know we're strength and conditioning coaches. Turns out 3 strength and conditioning coaches can't figure out how to fix podcast audio.
No idea what happens if we have to screw in a light bulb.
Yeah, no, too much. And so 40 minutes later today, we got this bad boy rolling, and we are stoked to bring on our guest, someone who's very dear to Zach and myself, someone we mutually call a mentor, someone we have been just feel very blessed to have learned from and been able to share a short part of life with.
Parker's beating around the bush. We love this guy.
We love this guy, Coach Rock Stephenson. Welcome, Charles.
Hey guys, just thank you so much. This is so cool and just incredibly honored and super excited. So let's roll.
Let's roll, baby. We're excited to have you on here. Rock, I know you told the story last time, so sorry you have to repeat it, but we know you as Rock, not Charles, not Stephenson, not Coach Stephenson. Will you tell us a little bit about that nickname?
Absolutely. So the nickname came from a former player at NC State. His name was Damian Wilkins, and in fact, he has family right there in the Carolinas. So,
oh, really?
But we were at NC State, and it was just so tough for the athletes to say Coach Stephenson or even call me Charles, right? It's so formal of a name, and he came in and says, "Man, you need a nickname." And I'm like, well, I had a few when I was little, but he goes, "I got one for you. We're gonna call you Rock." And how cool, man! I'll wear that with pride because at the time Dwayne Johnson was pretty much crushing it, just as he is now. Has he ever not crushed it? And
not in my lifetime.
So yeah, no. So I said, all right, let's roll. And I guess I had it last time. Over the years, it's you try to make it mean something to you as well, and that's so it has become more personal to me, and hopefully it's a name I can live up to by the way I live and the discipline and work ethic and the steadiness of the pursuit everyone has of being a better human being every day.
You do. Being from someone who had the experience of learning from you, you're a steady part of that University of Utah weight room culture. There's no doubt about that. Consistent, hardworking. I still remember watching, I'd come in. So this is, I guess, I don't work there anymore. Remember, I'd come in and shoot my bow against that concrete wall sometimes. It'd be like 4:30 in the morning, and I'd come in to shoot my bow, and Rock would come in on the bike and just be cranking out pull-ups. And it was just, what great mornings we had.
I remember sitting there as an intern one time and it's busy in a collegiate weight room. And so everything had kind of calmed down for a second. It was like, oh, good. We can take a break and look over, and outside of the Sorensen weight room at the University of Utah, there's a wall of windows, and Rock's out there cleaning the glass. Yeah. So I better get myself out there and clean some glass. I ain't sitting around doing nothing.
Oh man, good stuff. So hey, shooting the bow, man, because it's hard to find in the city of Salt Lake. It's hard to find the yardage you need in them tiny ass backyards where I lived, and so we found a way, huh, Parker? We had 35, 40 yards in the weight room on that turf. I think we made Webby a little nervous.
I definitely think we did. I know that wouldn't have flown under anybody else other than Webby. I remember that. I was like, hey, it's concrete in back, and Webby would just be like, oh gosh. Oh, that was fun.
Dude, I have done it. I think we needed 40 yards one day, right? And I was in the basketball complex. I don't think anyone knows this. But I had it on a diagonal. You could get 40 in there. And I guess if you miss, would go in the padding, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a good story.
Yeah, it's you're just trying to put yourself in game like scenarios, baby. You
Yeah.
want the pressure on. You want the
Yeah,
pressure
the
on.
stress of getting caught equals the stress of a big buck walking in.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
Very good.
So Rock, how long have you been in the strength and conditioning field?
If you want to go full time, you're gonna have to start. I'm gonna say 1991. I think it's my
And
first full time job.
How'd you start off? Was it in the collegiate space? Was it in the private sector?
Yeah, I started off in being a strength coach for the baseball team at William and Mary. And because I was a baseball player and my shoulder got jacked up, so
I didn't know
I
that.
said, "Hey, I'll train the team." So the coach just said, "Here, go. You got them." So I trained them, and next thing you know, I was training men's basketball at William and Mary, and then that was as an undergrad student. So that's how trusting, and little people knew, right? And just the crazy setup. You had a weight room that no one really supervised, right? And the football players, they'd have keys, and I forget how I got a key. But we figured out a way to train teams in there. I really don't remember how, but we did, right? So that was pretty cool start. So, but full time would have been 1991, University of Virginia.
Wow.
It's funny that started so early. Like I was just talking with a different coach today about distinguishing characteristics from great coaches and not great coaches, and it came up that kind of with a attribute we agreed on is like adaptability, right? So like that, I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And it's like, yeah, you just find a way.
Love it, no doubt. Great ones get it done.
Great ones get it.
And I'm not trying to
tagline that we got the tagline for the episode.
I'm not trying to imply that, but that if you want to be whatever, great ones get it done. Let's just leave it at that.
Great ones get it done.
Yeah. Rock, did you have any hesitancy back in the 90s of baseball players or coaches doing strength training? Like, was there any we don't want our guys getting hurt lifting weights. We don't want them getting big and bulky. Did you deal with any of that?
Gosh, it's crazy. No,
That's awesome.
You're a smaller school. Everybody worked hard to get where they're at, right? And no, I don't remember it. We just I think as my proclaimed self, strength coach of this program, I think I was somewhat mindful of the throwing athlete, but we probably did some crazy stuff.
Yeah. You just can't remember it.
I just can't remember it. We squatted, we cleaned, we benched.
Fundamentals don't change.
That probably doesn't change much.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question is how'd you figure out what you wanted to do with that team, right? Like, where were you pulling your knowledge from? Were you going to school? Were you reading Muscle and Fitness, right? Like, we all kind of get our birth in strength and conditioning from different avenues, right? Where did you learn how to train athletes?
Such a new field, but the NSCA, I don't remember the year it started, but it was in the 70s, right? Or was it 80s? Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, it was, somewhere in there. And I actually was a member of the NSCA. Like, wow, you could be a member, but you didn't have to be certified because I wasn't. And I think I was reading some of their articles, and it was like, it was when you first started reading anything about training or bodybuilding or anything, it was like the Bible, right? You hang on to every word. So I wish I could specifically recall, but there was probably an article about baseball training in there and pretty much followed it.
Yeah. It's what an NSCA was probably pretty pivotal in that most common knowledge in the 80s and 70s about training was bodybuilding, right? Like most of it was coming from Arnold. Like the Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting circles were pretty small, weren't they?
Probably, yeah. I would think the biggest, if I had to guess, the biggest circle probably was bodybuilding at the time.
Yeah. And you were big in Olympic lifting, right?
Yeah, I started off powerlifting, and
Yeah.
then I shifted to Olympic lifting, just uh, just to learn more about the disciplines of each sport.
Hmm.
Pretty cool
Yeah.
to go deep into each area. Was certainly introspective for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
After William and Mary, you got your undergrad, and then you took your first job at Virginia, UVA, right?
Yep, went to grad school at UVA. My
Okay.
mentor was a man named John Gamble, just absolute legendary of a man. And in the sport of powerlifting, you knew who John Gamble was back then, right? I don't know anyone who may know him now, but he was a true strong man. He actually competed in the strong world's strongest men competitions,
Wow.
along with the guy named Bill Kazmaier. You don't know Bill Kazmaier? Yeah.
I know Bill
Oh yeah.
Kazmaier.
Yep. John would be invited. In fact, John ripped his trap in one of those competitions. They had this I-beam, right? A steel I-beam. And they
Like you
put
put up in like a warehouse.
yes, yes, yes. And they you had to squat it. So this I-beam, he had it, man. He said I had the lift, but somehow it's got that sharp square edge. It dug down this trap and ripped and kind of just tore it. And
Oh,
so
damn.
that was that. But he would tell the story better. But I do remember that, how he hurt himself in one of them strongman contests. He benched 490. He wasn't a 470. 470. He deadlifted 890 and squatted like 870. But this was and he was very competitive, right, at the time. So Ed Cohen was out there as well. But John was getting out of it as those totals, as you got those 1,000-pound squatters and those, guys like Ed Cohen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed Cohen has done a lot for the world of strength and conditioning too. Like he's got a lot of programming that I know a lot of people still utilize with their athletes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy to think about. So how was he training his athletes at the time? Was it very similar to what he was doing for his strongman, or was he having his athletes do different stuff?
It
Do you
was,
remember?
and it was basic. We did squat, we deadlifted, we benched, obviously. We did high pulls, and
Okay.
which is probably, I do remember doing high pulls, and we kept working more and more towards doing hang cleans, power cleans, and stuff like that, right? But I do
Yeah.
remember specifically when I first got there was a lot of high pulls.
Yeah.
And then it, as the more information came about the benefits of weightlifting, it just progressed into doing a lot of more and more push presses, cleans, hang cleans. We never messed with the snatch much, even though there was some football programs at the time starting to snatch as well. But it makes sense to stay with the clean for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What so and it's crazy to think that you've been writing strength and conditioning programs since the 90s. What is what have you seen change over the last almost 30? Yeah, 30 years, right? Do you program way differently than you did in the 90s, or is it the same, right? Like, tell us a little bit about your evolution.
Gosh, certainly the program has changed a good bit. There's a lot more information. There's a lot more information that helps you sift through some stuff. But if I could almost, you're making me go all the way back to the beginning where it was basic. It was 4 sets of lat pull downs, 5, 6 sets of bench, and it was a push. It was very basic. And you tend to, of course, the more it drifts one way, it tends to pull back, right? And now I feel like there might possibly be kind of a pullback a little bit coming on, and because we know that the basics work,
Right.
and once you got these basics, once you're fairly strong at the basics, certainly that's where everybody should start, right? No matter, where you're at in what training or what sport, but then every sport has different demands of the level of strength you need, and we also have gotten better at not just chasing just strength. Strength is everything, which strength is very important. I don't want to de-emphasize strength in any way, but we really would push for numbers, big squats, big. You always wanted. Even when I was training basketball, I wanted the 300-pound cleaners, power cleaners, and the.
Damn.
Well, I guess back then it was more like 250. We had a guy that could do. My best clean for basketball was 293, but I guess it was the 300-pound benchers, and the 400-pound squatters and stuff. So you kind of had those marks you were shooting for. 225-pound cleaners, and now you realize the lift dictated your training more than actual taking a step back and look at this kid, look at this situation. We take much more consideration now, like that his, like my arms are +3, which is long for an Olympic lifter. But guys that are +6, +7, it's like, whoa, it's just a different beast, right? So you really don't, some things just don't fit, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Rock, explain that metric for us. So
Okay.
you said you're +3 and you got a +7, +9. What's that metric for you?
So what that metric is it's my wingspan minus my height, and
Okay.
my height is without shoes, right? So, so if I have a 6 foot wingspan and I'm 5'8", I'm
Yeah.
just under 6 wingspan, but I'm like 5'8", in
Okay.
and without shoes. And
8.
so yeah, I was Diane would laugh because I tell her I'm 5'9", and I am, but she says I'm not. But anyway, it's your height minus your wing minus your height.
That's fine. I tell everybody I'm good looking. Everybody else tells me I'm not. So, it's just how it works.
You are a handsome devil, man.
See, that's how I know you're in my corner. You'll lie to me.
Yeah. Rock, you've been mentioned on this podcast so many times, man. I can't even count how many times we probably mentioned the name Rock in all sorts of different contexts. And part of the reason we mention you so much, and for the listeners, right, like most of those listeners listen to glean insight into our expertise with fitness, right? So we'll do a lot of reviews of common programs, right? There's a lot of programs out there that are good, and there's a lot that aren't that good, but context is everything. But where they hear your name a lot is in the influence that you've made on young strength and conditioning coaches and the influence you made on teams, right? A big role as a coach is your sphere of influence. How much influence can you create to drive more motivation, to drive more hard work, to get people to exceed what they think they could do? And that's one thing that you are excellent at. And I just want to know, like, when did you start to really hone in on your coaching ability, your ability to communicate with people from different backgrounds, find out what gets them to tick, and drive it to get them to exceed in the weight room and exceed on the court?
Yeah, what a question. I think you're a lot more aware of it now, but as you're developing as a coach, I think everybody has this inner self in some way that drives them, whether it's to learn so much or to be relatable. whether you're trying to or not, right? I think Diane would say, "Don't be an ass," and I keep referring to Diane. She's my wife.
Yeah. Uh-huh. She's
But I
great.
hope, I mean, you guys are two great human beings, and certainly have some shit to you in a way where if you did go down a wrong road of treating people wrong or any way, you realized it and you make that correction. So I don't. It's more of this pursuit of treating people the right way. I think of lifting people, of helping people feel good about themselves is some type of inside me, and now once you realize you have something like that, and you guys should realize it, right? Because you both do. Is you try to play into that strength if you can, right? So just comes down to basically being a good human being.
It's so simple, yet so many coaches. I don't see it in every coach, right? It's
Yeah.
so I shouldn't say it's rare because I haven't seen, there's hundreds of strength and conditioning coaches, but you know, what you do is unique in the context that I've seen. Um, how is it? So when you were at the University of Utah, you started working with Coach Kristoviak, right? Um, he was huge on culture, huge, right? When you got that job, did you know how important it was going into it? Like, was this a skill set you're like, Coach, I can drive culture, or is it something you fostered at your time at the University of Utah?
Certainly fostered it there. Certainly was clear of the expectations from him that there will be a strong culture, and we're going to define it, and it's who we are and how we do things, and everyone will understand it and help drive it. So if anything, all those things spoke to me, and you can tell sometimes when you're trying to put together a staff or any type of team, you kind of lean on the ones that get it the most possibly, or all in, like are all in. And we had a wonderful staff, and all of us were all in. But this is an area where certainly I probably embraced a lot, and he
Mm-hmm.
could see that, right? So that was cool.
Has it been a different like process for you going through like different cultures of the different teams you've worked with, and how has that like influenced kind of how you approach training them?
Absolutely. Every team I've been a part of has a different culture, has different ways of doing things, all pretty much have similar standards, but definitely a different way of doing things, a different way. Right now, just in my environment, it is so much different than University of Utah's, and from all kinds of ways in facilities, but also in the players that we get and have, and my head coach here has really taught me so much, Johnny Dawkins, and one of those things that really sticks out is just always remember they're like 18 or they're like 19, they're like
Yeah.
19. I
Yeah.
mean, and we always tend to forget that um, damn, they have so much to learn, and you almost always have to look at yourself and go, I haven't done a good job of teaching them. So don't say he's a putz or a dud, because either you haven't reached him, you haven't done a good job of showing or being clear on the expectations.
That's something I remember. Um, Too many things that you taught both of us to remember them all. But one thing that I definitely remember is one of those things like we were hanging out around the GHDs after some team and just everybody was talking, and somebody asked me how like women's basketball was or something. And my first move was to like dog on some player. Like, cause that in my mind would be like, elevate me to your guys' level. I'll just tell all these guys the athletes suck and they'll think I'm awesome. And that was something that like you just like slid away as like, yeah, like didn't tell me I was wrong. It was just like, they're trying and they're trying to figure it out as well. And like, that's part of your job is to help get them there. And that was it. But that stuck with me. It's, I think that dynamic, is something that we talk like on here, we'll talk a lot about as a coach or something like that. But, a lot of I would say most of our listeners have the luxury of picking a coach or something like that. So what are like from the other side of the table in evaluating a coach for yourself, whether you're an athlete, like going and visiting schools, you're hiring a personal trainer, you're hiring a strength and conditioning coach. What are things that, somebody should look for on that end?
That's a good question.
Wow.
Yeah, he's Rock chewing on it. That's a great question.
Well, certainly you want to make sure the credentials are there and that you understand what those credentials mean. In some way, do a Google search, try to understand what type of training they went through to get where they are. I think referrals are definitely important, and people who you trust if they have worked with, which usually kind of maybe how it happens anyway. There's usually a referral. I think, certainly with parents trying to get their kids taken care of, certainly be very observant, and you usually can smell bullshit and trust that, right? And if they don't show you they care, right off the bat, or they really are totally vested in you, then obviously that's a bad sign too.
Yeah.
Rock, what's been your favorite thing about being a strength and conditioning coach? What a unique profession that you've been doing, and killing it in. Like, what is your favorite aspect of the job?
It really is trying to get someone to push themselves and to understand their greatest potential. And
Right.
and even to this day, it's really like, even today we have an in-season lift, and I'm trying to think of what I can say to this one person or two to get them to go through an exercise with some engagement, right? And the level of effort in some, right? Some are just, your what we call resilient exercises, whether we're just doing an ankle balance thing and stuff like that, or something to keep the knee, isolation of the muscles around the knee or something. So those are the ones, is what I mean, kind of need engagement, right? You just try to say something about how important it is, man. We really want, I remember the last lift, I was trying to tell this person, gosh, make sure you do that groin exercise, like go deep into that, make sure you get a great stretch. You don't want anything stupid to happen, even though you can't guarantee it, but we are trying to do something here that will help you prevent it, right? So those things, and even beyond, especially in the off season, to get people to really push. And that's kind of what I love about reps and reserves is you if you're trying to get a target of reps and reserve, you keep flirting with that in range, right? of all right, and you just add weight, sometimes. So they will teach you how much you have left, right? When you realize when you thought you were done, right? So those are the fun parts that that they still are, of getting people to do more and to work harder.
Do you use reps in reserve a lot for basketball?
We do, we do actually. We're using velocity based training as well, which help. But I don't know if you guys have tried. We did try the velocity loss thing, Where
Oh yeah.
yeah. So that there will get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We may dabble more in it this off season. It took, guys wouldn't stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just keep going. I got a couple, it
Yeah.
wasn't, I got to figure out exactly what reps, what velocity loss would be best for them.
Velocity is a fun thing to play with, especially if you're training for power, right? Just to watch it drop as you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm moving this fast, but its velocity keeps dropping, I've had fun kind of tinkering with it. It's a cool little tool to use.
I agree.
Yeah. I use it all the time with speed work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you fall out of 10% loss off your best time, we're done.
Hey, what units what piece of equipment are you using?
Right now, my thumb. we had laser gates at Carolina, but since I've moved over to the tactical side, stopwatches.
Okay.
Yeah, the tactical side, like I haven't found a lot of use, to be honest. And the tactical side is so hard to get your hands on a certain group of individuals for an extended period of time because on special operations, they're doing things, And then on the infantry side, there's just such a high op training tempo that like it's really hard to get them. And they're large groups, right? Like the Marine Corps, like in a battalion, you're dealing with hundreds of individuals. Getting them through velocity-based training is a logistical nightmare, know.
Yeah.
So I haven't really used much of my tech insight in the tactical space, other than like typical force plate testing. But it would be cool to play around.
A lot of like heart rate monitors, and then extended like workload management type stuff on my side. A lot of
the heart rate monitor stuff. It's classic Marines and operators are just like, just slow down. You need to run a little slower, man. You don't need to run 100% for 5 miles. There's value in zone 2 aerobic work. Like, let's go. It's a good problem to have, but like that's why your back hurts, man. You don't have to run twice a week. You can run once every 3 weeks. But so Rock, what kind of lifting do you have the basketball team do? Do you change it on a yearly basis, or do you kind of have your pillars that you're still rolling with? Like how you train on your basketball team?
Well, I think the pillars are still there. We will always, for upper body size and mass, we'll definitely bench or dumbbell bench, and it makes no difference to me. And some guys, like today we had half the team probably dumbbell bench, the other half did barbell, right? And squats are cool now because you don't have to, because of velocity-based training, you can still do some good weight, but you do it at a good velocity. And deadlifts are simple, and they're really, and I wouldn't say they're easy for those guys, but their arms are long and the handles are high, and it's almost like some are higher than a quarter squat, right? I mean, it's just, so you can move some good weight. The Olympic derivatives, like, a lot of clean pulls, a lot of hang clean pulls, a lot of trap bar jump shrugs, stuff like that. Sometimes we'll screw around with some jump squats.
Nice.
But jump shrugs for sure at varying loads. So other than that, it's the basics. It's definitely you do a pull above your head one day, maybe a mid back pull another. You do curls quite often.
Hey, they're wearing tank tops. You got to win getting off the bus.
Exactly. The one thing great about basketball is it's upper body physicality, right? You said you talk about it. You said we want to be upper body, and upper body physicality. We want to have this presence about it. You want to almost have this inner confidence that you are strong, and then it's lower body strength and power, almost like a track athlete.
Zach was saying that, just recently we have like a bunch of frequently asked questions we get a ton on the podcast. And a lot of it is around this like hybrid training model. It's really popular terminology in the tactical space, hybrid athlete. And Zach was saying that exact thing. Like most of the time, that means lower body like an athlete, power, strength, upper body like a bodybuilder, get yoked, and it kind of sounds pretty similar. Like, for hoopers, like you want mass, but you want to be quick and agile with the lower body. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, and lately in the last few years, the basketball shot, right? Not very
Yeah.
complex. It
Yeah.
really isn't. I mean, accuracy is huge, but just
Yeah.
it's almost like throwing darts, right? in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, it's you can get yoked upper body, and you won't screw it up.
Yeah. I like it. Do you have any lifters now, Rock, that are hesitant, like any hoopers that are hesitant to lift, or are most of them ready to rock and digging it?
Okay, so absolutely, the more and more are becoming hesitant to lift, and
Really?
that's probably because of social media and a lot of the specificity that you see on social media, and there's a place for those things, but a lot of them, at least the younger ones on this team that we have now are very skeptical of lifting.
Wow. That surprises me
Yeah.
because I feel like lifting is more. I was just talking to Maya. There are way more high school. Like back when I was in high school, the dudes who lifted were like meatheads and football players. Outside of that, like you really weren't lifting that much, and it could have been specific to my high school, but I go to the gym here and it's full of high school guys and girls just getting after it in different ways. And it's really cool. So
Hmm.
it's surprising to me to hear that in your space and in basketball, it's almost the opposite. And that guys are just, at least with your experience, do you think like are they just afraid of getting bulky? Are they afraid of hurting themselves lifting? What narrative is being pushed out there, do you think?
Well, it's possible that in some of the training that they're doing in these training centers, in these basketball training centers, and there's so much ball being played,
Yeah.
summer league during it's so hard to get any type of consistent lifting,
Yeah.
and the basketball athlete is a very explosive, powerful athlete, and if either you get that through lifting or you got it already,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's a little bit of that. I don't know how. It's certainly not the dominant culture in basketball. Like I know in high school football, there's probably early morning lifts, and I'm sure there's lifting going on in high school basketball. There is, but you have some players that AAU has dominated their life so much, and
Yeah.
lifting has not really been a part. And if you're really good, it's probably even less of a part,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get them to
Yeah.
want to lift?
Wow, you just constantly try to relate. You constantly try to give them something, and a lot doesn't work, right? And you just come back the next day with a different tactic,
Yeah.
That's
and
resilience right there.
and you really try to take your ego way out of the equation. And anyway, right? To be honest with you guys, the biggest thing that we work on is just being on time. Like that's
Oh yeah.
a non-negotiable. I don't, for now you be on time, and that's the only one rule: be on
Yeah.
time, right? So that's this is where we're at right now. In some
Yeah.
cases, right now, all of them, we have some really hard-working kids. Um, we'll see. As this is the first time I've had 3 or 4 freshmen in a few years, which is unusual, right?
Yeah.
For college athletics right now.
Yeah.
12 new players,
Golly.
New squad.
new squad every year so far is what's happening.
That's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's so like I mean strength and conditioning obviously it's our background, but we're kind of like under the umbrella of whatever the fitness industry or whatever. So being a part of that for so long, what are some of the like major changes maybe you've seen, both positive or negative?
In the fitness industry,
Yeah.
you want to take it all the way back to the 80s?
Yes, go ahead. The golden era.
I like it. Take it back.
I remember Richard Simmons. I don't know if you guys know him, but
Yeah.
what was that called? Was that it was
Tybo? Is that what it was?
No. Richard Simmons was before Tybo.
yeah, it was
He was the
Jazzercise?
yeah, it was stuff like that. Jazzercise.
effeminate,
Yeah.
like,
There was
yeah.
a name for it.
Yeah.
It still is. People still do it, right? What is it called?
I don't know.
Is it
I don't know.
Jazzercise? Is that what
The
it is?
group class, and you doing.
Is it Step?
Or it could be. They may have specific names now.
I'm looking it
my
up right
goodness, Richard.
I have no idea.
But and also there were gym. Now there was beginning of fitness facilities, but they didn't try to mix the hardcore lifter at all. There was these fitness facilities that were just all machines, and probably okay. They were designed for your executive to come in and just get like a 20-30 minute workout, and he's done. Just go down the line, each machine out. It's probably I'm sure that concept's still out there in the fitness industry. But what is it? Certainly you didn't see nearly as many yoked people in like these extreme physiques now, whether they come from CrossFit, whether they just come from extreme, like just high intensity training, right? Some of the stuff's out there, but that's a good question, isn't it?
It's crazy. I think like, right. Like even you just saying the like gyms and fitness centers being around, like, I think everybody just assumes that the way things are the way they've been.
Right.
And it's like Parker and I mentioned all the time, like strength and conditioning is a very new field, and fitness being an activity that you participate in is still pretty a new thing.
Yeah.
And like there were like lifters back in the day and everything like that, but it was more like a outlier type of thing. And now, like Parker's saying, seeing all the high school kids, it's becoming like the norm.
Yeah, what are these kids doing? Are they, when you saw them in there, I would assume they're mostly doing some bodybuilding type stuff.
So I have been crazy impressed. That was what I had assumed. But I see guys, we got box squats going. I see Olympic lifting going on. I see a lot of plyometrics. Well, I see bad plyos, but I see plyos. I see a lot of bad plyos. But I think that is one thing that I always talk with Zach. I'm like, if there's one thing the common fitness person doesn't quite understand, it's like power training, right? Like it's pretty easy to grasp strength and hypertrophy, right? Like just as a normal fitness enthusiast. But when you start stepping into training for power and speed is where things get a lot more complicated, right? But I see these, like, there's this high school kid that was box squatting 405 and then hopping off, waiting 30 seconds, and then doing squat jumps. I was like, damn, that is awesome to see, And I've seen high school girls in there, like, getting it, like doing some sprints, lifting heavy. I'm just super impressed. I don't know if it's just the local area because there are so many, like, operators,
Right.
and that these are their kids, or if it's kids are doing better stuff now. When I was in high school, I was itching to take my shirt off, get a pump, and flex in a mirror. That's all I wanted to do. But anytime, if I wasn't at football practice or doing a football lift, I did not want to lift like a football player. I wanted to get pumps.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see. I think, like lifting and training can go all the way back to Greek, to early Olympians, right? But it was the athletes doing those, and it was these epics and these heroes where we'd see all these like big feats of strength, and now it's just the common individual from what I see, but my perspective is skewed because I live in gyms and follow Instagram content of lifting weights, but I see it more. Yeah. Rock, what is your favorite routine to do for yourself? Because you look great and you move great, right? And you've done it for a long time. You and Diane both, you and your wife. I still remember we would run the staff workouts, and Diane was always a savage. Do you remember that?
Oh
Zach?
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't make her tired, and she'd be like, Parker, you could make that a little harder. Or like, why are we doing that? You remember when she would roast you at? She's like, I'm not doing that. Give me something else. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what to do, Diane. Always busting balls.
Yes.
But what's been a pillar of your routine and Diane's routine?
It's, for me, there's always something to try to figure out something more about. So like in January, it was, you did some force plate testing, you kind of see where you are. You see where you say, okay, so the whole month of January, I did high velocity, and we're talking speeds of 2.5, 2.75 meters per second on all your lifts, right?
Fast.
Did body weight jumps. So basically, I was just doing jump shrugs, barbell jump shrugs, and single leg barbell jump shrugs. That was the routine, and then it was box jumps, 2-legged box jumps, 1-legged box jumps. And I just did that for a solid month just to drive up just the number on the force plate. And so now this, of course, upper body, it's always upper body swole.
Yeah.
But now in the month of February, it's going to be more strength stuff, right? And for me, it'll be kind of what I'm asking my guys to do is just specific angles of the sport. It'll be like partial squats. It'll be partial these angles that you feel like you are in basketball. But we'll try to do high load, whether it's an isometric, whether it will be a like I said, a quarter squat, or actually we're doing some leg presses now, just at a minimal angle, 140-degree angle or something in your knee, right? Very similar to jumping. And then I'm gonna take a look at that, do an assessment, and go from there. And each month it's different.
You're doing what a lot of your guys are doing, practicing
a lot of times,
what you preach in essence.
Yeah. A lot of times, and but upper body today I did, curls.
Yeah, I like how curls keep getting mentioned here.
Seated dumbbell curls and standing barbell curls. We did. I did a cable press on one knee, almost like a single leg, like you're doing a landmine press. But it was that simple. I was just doing it with a cable.
Nice. How does have you written Diane's workout programs?
No.
Or does she do her own thing?
She does her own.
Why is that?
Same lines you gave you. I'm not doing that. It's not hard enough.
Yeah, that's good. She's a beast, man. You guys are both beasts.
She is.
Rock, you have 4 beautiful girls.
Yeah, thank you.
How do they all lift? Do they work out?
Tyler, the oldest one, she does more yoga. Shay lifts.
I remember
she
Shay
always likes to lift.
I remember when she would come in at the U and just get after it.
Yeah, she likes to lift her squats, her lunges, stuff like that. But and Quinn is a Pilates person.
Okay.
And Carson,
that is the hardest stuff.
Yeah, I know. And Carson loves the body build.
Does she really? Are you serious?
No doubt. She follows JP coaching, Mike Israel.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Carson's following JP and Mike
Israel?
Oh,
yeah. In fact, she introduced me to JP. On the gram, that is.
Yeah.
So, like, here's a question the other day. The front part of my shoulder, what do I hit to make that pop? That's a question from Carson.
That was great.
Let's go. You need to tell her, say, hey, you need to listen to Chop It Up Strength.
Yeah, right. So I went through some Chris Beasley, research and trying to figure out what do I tell her, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's a complex area of the shoulder. And one of the things that he pointed out was the just overhead dumbbell presses is going to involve that front delt quite a bit, and it's probably the best thing to make it pop.
Probably, you can get into those underhand front raises, but I think a lot of those parts of the shoulder, like, it becomes such a mind muscle thing, especially in bodybuilding when you're like, okay, I'm trying to target one spot on my shoulder, right? Like you got to think about that. Where in athletic performance, it's like just be explosive, be violent, right? Whatever it is. That's awesome to hear that. See that I always call her C Stars.
Yeah.
Man, you want to talk about some one-liners? C Stars has said some things to me. I can't recall, but that just made me be like, what? She'd be like, shut up, Thorable. Because everyone would call me Thor. And she'd be like, you're just Thorable. And like I'm like, this is a little 9-year-old roasting my ass right now. And like throwing a basketball at me. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Great. So I guess Rock, we forgot to do the question of the day.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Typically we do that in the beginning, but we can do it towards the end. One of my most memorable meals was sitting around a fire, eating a legitimate turkey leg, like I'm in medieval times, and roasted peanuts. And that was a meal you created for me. We drank beer, ate turkey legs, and ate peanuts. What are one of your favorite things to cook? I know when we recorded last time, you told us an answer. I don't know if you chewed on it more and still think the same thing or think something new. Lay it on us. Favorite thing to cook?
Well, last night we had a tri-tip steak, right? And Publix, y'all have those in Carolina, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it was buy one, get one. And tri-tip steak now. So I bought it was 2.5 pounds. It's $30, right? And then I could get another one. So I got like 5-6 pounds of tri-tip. So last night I put it on I just put it on the Weber kettle.
Okay.
And
that's old school.
Yeah, and I have a what do they call it? Slow and sear, where you can keep one side hot and the rest of it almost like a smoker. Yeah. So I got that, and I cooked this tri-tip and trimmed it up, put a little olive oil on it, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. And it was just let it cook for about 45 minutes. Try to cook it at 275, but it kept getting over 300 degrees. So I rigged my there's this guy I followed, Chuds. It's Bradley Robinson. So he outfits a Weber kettle with another thermometer, right? So so you have the one up top that gets the heat, but you have the one, I put one on the side, so I know exactly how much heat is on the meat. If I'm actually,
okay.
So I was trying to keep that around 300, about 45 minutes. Got it up to about. The great thing about a tri-tip is it's different thicknesses, right? So the smaller end got up to around 140. The thicker end was around 130. So you could have more cooked to almost medium rare. So it was really good, boys.
Sounds good. I mean, just the description, how dialed in you were right there.
Yeah,
is the exact example of why I like eating at Rock's house. Because always peanuts, always it's always peanuts, protein, and beer.
Dude, I shelled some peanuts last night too. So, so what you do with those is you buy the jumbos from Hampton Farms, right? You get the bags. You don't buy you buy them uncooked, right? Or raw in the shell. Got to shell them though. Take some work, and then you just roast them. Put a little salt and butter on them. Damn good.
I love it. Zach, I mean, I feel like I could talk for hours, but you got to drop Davey off. I got to go take care of Sasha. As we're wrapping up, is there any other questions you got for Rock?
No, I don't. I mean, we could do this all day and be good with me. Yeah. But that your name has been mentioned on here more than anybody else's, I would wager, by a healthy margin. And hopefully, our listeners, can glean some good stuff from this, because I always learn something talking to you, and are very appreciative of your time, Rock.
Man, honor. What a great time it's been. The time has passed too quickly. Let's do it again.
Let's do it
again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What Zacn and I were saying, this year Maya and I are moving back to Salt Lake in a couple weeks, but next year it's yes, sir. Yeah, we're moving back to Salt Lake. Yeah. But next year, I think Zacn and I are going to make it to the high performance basketball symposium, and maybe we can record an episode over some beers or something like that. I know you'll be busy, but
that'd be really cool. Would love nothing more to have you even this year, in any way and anyhow. I may have to drive up to Carolina and kidnap Zach. Salt Lake's a little far.
Yeah, Salt Lake's a little far. We all know Zach is a better helper than me, too. That's true. One of my flaws as an intern is that during conferences, I'm like, okay. Like, well, if everyone's doing stuff, I'm just gonna chill, right? It's because Zach's always figuring stuff out. And I'm like, well, Zach's got it, you know? So I know I'm blind to many weaknesses, but that's one weakness I'm not to. Zach is a better helper at conferences, for sure.
And that's the end of the list of things that he's better at.
I remember, to close it out, Rock, I'm sure you remember this. Zach and I were wheeling a massive ice chest, and JD, a fellow coach, was about to present. We're on this basketball coach,
and JD's nervous about it.
She's been nervous about it, so her nerves are up. She's getting the mic set up. All the coaches are sitting there. We're wheeling the ice chest behind the screen, and what did we hit? A cord or something?
A cord, and went to catch it, and it was made of plastic, and it broke.
And do you remember that? And all the drinks and all
on a hardwood basketball floor,
all over. And I still remember the reason why you got that opportunity at Mississippi State. I remember Rock telling me about it, and Dietz is I left to go try to find a broom. That's just kind of what my knee-jerk reaction was. I think immediately just started scooping ice, dude, with your hands. Do you remember that? Or maybe you got a broom, but you got
no. All I remember is it hitting the hardwood. Just the thing.
You got on that situation so fast, and other people saw it, and that's literally why. That's not the only reason. You're a great coach, but I remember people saying, like, "Man, that was awesome of how quickly."
I never heard that.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. And JD, of course, was probably pissed at us. She's like, "What the hell, you guys?"
Oh, I know. I remember sitting and listening to it repeatedly because she was prepping.
Yeah,
like she prepped so much for that. She was it's so invested, and she just started to, and just boom,
just ruin it. Rock, do you remember that?
I do.
Sorry.
Good times, no doubt.
Yeah, good times. Not one I remember fondly at all.
You can see how patient Rock has had to be with Zach and I.
Yeah.
Rock, thank you so much. We have so much respect. Where can listeners? So a lot of our listeners like to go find these other individual coaches and reach out to them. Where can people reach out to you or find you?
Well, it's at highperformancebasketball.com. All right, no. Yeah, that's the website, but it's High Performance Basketball on Instagram. And that's probably about it.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on that just because. So, being a strength coach, you go to a lot of conferences, and if you're involved in fitness, kind of in any capacity, there's personal training conferences. There's a lot of avenues now to meet other people in the field and get more education. So I've been to a lot of strength coach conferences. Some are good, some are less good, but the High Performance Basketball Symposium stands supreme as far as conferences go. And I know, because I've talked to many other coaches, many other coaches feel the same way. One of the kind of barriers in fitness and personal training and strength coaches, you don't know people. And then there's a hierarchy in people's heads of, well, if, so-and-so's in the NBA and I'm at a small D3 school or a high school, I'm a lesser kind of coach. That's not the case, but people feel that way. And you feel that at other conferences, there's some flaunting of the logo on the chest or things like that. And I've shared a story about the conference before on the podcast, but that is very much not the case at that conference. And I know because we had the privilege to be interns at Utah and then work at that conference, that's a result of you kind of curating the types of people that foster that kind of culture there. And it's a special conference to attend. So if listeners are interested in fitness or in basketball, like that is one to get on the calendar at some point.
Man, thank you. Yeah, it's a day and a half social.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Surrounded by some lectures and some good education, but certainly it's a community togetherness type of event.
Yeah.
Rock,
we appreciate you so much.
Man, guys,
Thanks,
can't wait to see you down the road. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be on this podcast. It has been really cool. Keep impacting lives.
Thanks, Rock.
Send your family our love.
I will. Will do, man.
Peace out.
All right.
Peace out.
Look.
We're really out.